Today, we find the distance from Yosemite National Park to Mount Rainier National Park. First of all, a little bit of history. President Benjamin Harrison signed legislation establishing Yosemite National Park on October the 1st, 1890. Our fourth national park, Mount Rainier National Park, was established on March the 2nd, 1899, by legislation signed by then President William McKinley. Now, from my previous video, we can recall that the Yosemite Visitor Center is located at these coordinates. Within Mount Rainier, we find the Henry M. Jackson Memorial Visitor Center, and that is located at these coordinates, which you can see. And I go ahead and convert those each to degree decimal form. Now, at this stage, you can pause the video and you can, based on my previous videos, try to calculate the distance between the two visitors that are on your own, and then unpause and check your work. So let's see what those solutions look like. First of all, we take a look at a rough sketch. And as always, I want to emphasize that this is a rough sketch. We are not trying for some accurate depiction of what's actually taking place, but just a starting point for us geometrically. So we have the North Pole as C, always. Our starting point is A, always. Our ending point is B. And recall that we are starting at Yosemite National Park, which is A, and ending our journey at Mount Rainier National Park. Now, we use both the latitudes and longitudes. From the latitudes, we calculate the length of side A and the length of side B, both in degrees. And using the longitudes, we calculate the angle, capital C, which is a very small angle, 2.1495 degrees. So again, here's our rough sketch once again, and here is where we calculated those values. Well, let's take a look at our updated triangle as it stands so far. And with our updated triangle, we have the following. Again, North Pole. Here's our capital angle C right here. Here is A, here is B. Remember, A is always opposite vertex A, and side B is always opposite vertex B in our spherical triangle. Once again, we use the spherical law of cosines for sides, and we have the cosine of side C is equal to the cosine of little a times the cosine of little b plus the sine of a, little b, and the cosine of that angle, capital C. And we could see what that is. Now, we could talk about rounding and things like that, but we'll use that value that we get on our calculator. And then we use the inverse cosine. And we apply the inverse cosine to that value we just found, and we get this angle. Again, we could talk about rounding, but we won't at this stage. And we use a formula, which you should be familiar with from geometry, perhaps. And we have the arc length formula, S and that is equal to r times theta. I turn those around. I have theta times r. Now, as you know or may know from the arc length formula, we do need to have the angle, our central angle, in terms of radians. So I convert this degree, this angle of degrees to radians by multiplying by pi over 180 degrees, multiply by the average radius of the Earth, and we find approximately again that the distance between the two visitor centers in Yosemite National Park and Mount Rainier National Park is 849.37 miles, which is also, by the way, the value of our lowercase c in our spherical triangle in miles. Remember that A, B, and C really serve two purposes. They can be measured as degrees of some angle in a great circle, constructed using a great circle, and they can also be thought of as distances, and that's the way we're thinking of them here. So glad you joined me for this video, and you can take a look at our next one.